This is the SAP Developer News for December 11th, 2025.
The November 2025 release of CAP is out, bringing the Node.js runtime to 9.5, the Java runtime to 4.5, and the compiler to 6.5. This release brings lots of changes and additions. Here's just a brief overview. The status transition flows feature has graduated from being a lab preview to now being available as a beta feature, and it's available in this release. It's a beautiful example, I think, of CAP's what, not how approach, with even less code for us to write and maintain. There's an important change in the CDS language and compiler area. Previously, annotations with indeterminate targets, typically due to typos, would cause a warning level message at compile time. This is okay, but for security-related annotations, an error level is better, and that's what we get now. Moving to the Node.js runtime, there's new beta level support for OData's $compute system query option, an option which lets us specify arbitrary expressions, think computed values, driven from the client end via OData. And in the Java runtime, there are various changes, including some to which we need to pay attention. First, to enable consistent behavior across different databases, the runtime now handles numeric type promotion. This means, that you might want to check that your handler code is not relying on specific types resulting from arithmetic expressions, which might now be different. In the context of draft-related entities, draft-enabled entities specifically, calculated elements are now evaluated properly when querying the _drafts table. If you've used virtual elements in the past, you might consider now moving to calculated elements so that you can reduce your custom code. There are also a number of improvements in the Java runtime to the outbox mechanism, with an improved processing strategy, an optimized locking strategy, and also new observability possibilities as CAP's Java outbox now publishes metrics to OpenTelemetry. Additionally, in the Java runtime, there's now support for CDS data in Spring REST controllers. There are enhancements to the CDS.map based elements. There's support for tree views on SQLite. You can also now use the shorthand protocol annotations like @OData rather than the long form. And in the area of reading media elements, a transaction is now always enforced, but there's a way to turn this off in configuration. Now, moving from the runtimes to the plugin area, there have been some important fixes made to the attachment plugin, and there are also some improvements. Now, for example, all hyperscaler object stores are supported. There are improvements to malware scanning, there's support for localization, and the visibility of attachment sections in the UI can now be controlled via annotations. And these annotations, of course, can be dynamic with expressions. Moving on to the tools topic in CAP. This November release brings a new simplified Kima project setup, and that's all via CDS commands, the CDS CLI, and that also sort of implies and means that the CTZ package is now discontinued. There's GitHub Action support now available for Java runtime projects, and one of my favorite features of this release, the command line formatter, Format CDS, now supports sources via standard in, which makes it a lot easier to build in your own tools into your own personal development environment. Awesome. And as you now know, the monthly release notes also include a small set of highlights on what has been changed and updated in the documentation itself, in CAPIA. And this time, these updates include improved localized data documentation, updates to the draft protection configuration details for the Java runtime, An additional entry in the list of supported OData vocabularies, that specifically is for the hierarchy vocabulary. Clarifications on draft aggregation support, and various other improvements and enhancements, far too many to list here. Well, that wraps it up just about for this brief overview for the CAP November release. Check out all the details and more in the usual place in CapHire, link in the description.
Hola, SAP developers. Before I head out for a run, I want to quickly share with you an exciting new feature that was just released in SAP Integration Suite Advanced Event Mesh. The new feature is called micro integrations. In essence, a micro integration will allow you to easily connect your AEM broker with third-party services. The third-party service connector can be set as a source or target destination, meaning that you can quickly set up the flow of events from or to the third-party service. Some of the third-party services that are supported at the moment are Azure Service Bus, AWS SNS and SQS, IBM MQ, Google PubSub, and more microintegrations are planned to be made available. Check out Carsten's blog post to learn more about microintegrations in SAP Integration Suite Advanced Event Mesh.
Hi, everybody. It's that time of year for holiday treats. And let's look under the tree here. I think we have something special, a little gift from the SAP Cloud Application Programming team. Let's check out what it might be. What you see here is the all-new SAP CAP console, a great little gift from the SAP Cloud Application Programming Model team that really helps developers, particularly those that are working with multiple projects locally in parallel. As you see here, it displays the different projects that I have on my local machine, makes it easy to open them in your designated editor. For instance, if I click this, it will open in Visual Studio Code. It also lets you easily open a project in the terminal or the file explorer, or go to wherever the source control system is. In this case, you can see that the project is set up to go to GitHub. It also allows you to interact with a running application. For instance, I have this application running, and I can see deployment configuration. I can visit the user interface for a particular service, just bring up the testing interface. There we are. Or I can visit the UI for an entire service, in which case it'll bring up the CAP homepage for that service. From here, I can continue testing with any of the particular entities, and I can have the log come back out. I say view log, I can have log entries come back here instead of to the console. So it gives me an easy place to test. Perhaps my favorite aspect, though, is the add deployment. So it makes it easy to deploy your applications to BTP. For instance, I'll just log on here to BTP. And once logged on, I can choose the account that I want to deploy to and the sub-account. And then I can easily deploy to the Cloud Foundry runtime with an option to deploy to the Kiva runtime coming soon. So if you're a CAP developer, then this is a tool you're going to want to be sure to install and have at your disposal.
The last CAP customer roundtable of this year is next week, Wednesday, the 17th of December. There's an agenda, there's a meeting request that you can download, and basically, you know the drill. If you've got insights, requirements, issues, challenges, topics that you want to discuss with your peers and also with the CAP team at SAP, then the CAP Customer Roundtable is for you. It's open to everybody. So, mark your diaries, 17th of December, 10 a.m. CET. Check out the link in the description for registering. See you there.
Hello, ABAP developers. While working in RESTful application programming model, you might have already used draft functionality, which is so convenient to use because you can save the data in draft status. To add to this, a new feature, collaborative draft, is available. And with this, you can invite other users to work in the same transaction. Let me show how that works. In this transactional app, I want to create an entry. And you can see here there's a plus button which is enabled because collaborative draft is enabled for this. Now I want to invite Sheena to give her inputs in this transaction. And you can see here me and Sheena can both work in the same transaction, and we can also see each other's changes. You can either save it or keep it as draft, and the invited users also will get to know the status of the transaction. To enable collaborative draft, it needs to be defined in behavior definition. A new action share has to be implemented. We need to have a draft query with the corresponding DCL so that the draft data can be controlled. Check out the help document and try out the collaborative draft functionality. Thank you.
Hi, I have some really cool news for those of you that got excited during the TechEd keynote when the RPT-1 model was announced, because it is now generally available in Generative AI Hub. So if you have an AI Core instance with the extended plan, you can head right over and try out the models. Or if you do not, you can also check out the free playground on rpt.cloud.sap. And there you can also just try it out. So the way it works is that RPT-1 is our foundation model, but unlike an LLM, it was not trained on a lot of language and can then predict the next word in a sequence or can answer your questions. But what it can do is, since it was trained on a lot of tabular data, it can fill in missing data points. And this is really cool because it is a pre-trained model, so you do not have to train anything yourself. The only thing that you have to do is provide a couple of lines from your data set that are actually complete so that the model can use those as context and basically as samples for any missing data points that you then want to be filled in. So you will provide the context, which is like a complete part of your table, just a couple of lines, it doesn't need a lot, and then a couple of lines where data points are missing. And then the model will predict these missing data points based on the context, so based on the lines that you gave it. I think that's super cool. I have a lot of fun trying it out myself. Make sure you head over and try it out yourself and let me know what you think.
So you joined it at Devtoberfest. You did win the award, one of the winners. After what is the most important thing about the Devtoberfest video?
For me, it's learning new technologies. So I'm doing lots of VTP, but I also like to learn about other technologies. So ABAP or integration suites. So it's learning intense. It's main parts to join the Devtoberfest work.
Thanks, Bray. Now you're here. Check out Berlin.
Yeah.
So any highlights?
Highlights for me is always connecting with people and meeting old colleagues, talking to new people, explaining and learning new tools. Yay.
That is it. Great to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Hey everybody, the year is almost over and so is Devtoberfest. This event would have not been possible without our amazing speakers. Thank you for sharing your insights and expertise at our event through your sessions. Your knowledge and innovative thinking added tremendous value to our community. We truly appreciate the time and passion you brought to the event, and I hope to see you all again next year for Devtoberfest 26.